scare anyone, but I'm going to give it to you straight about Jason. His body was never recovered from the lake after he drowned. And if you listen to the old-timers in town, they'll tell you he's still out there, surviving in the wilderness, full grown by now. The girl who survived that night at Camp Blood, that Friday the 13th, legend has it that Jason saw his mother beheaded that night, and that he took his revenge. A revenge that he'll continue to seek if anyone ever enters his wilderness again.
Well, it looks like another Radical Retro Rewind podcast is here. It is Friday. I am Ryan Hunter, and I am joined by Rob this week.
I'm back, everyone, for the sequel.
I'm so happy to have you on your favorite movie of the series, and also the first time we get Jason in the sense of Jason as a killer.
Yes, that is right. We meet Baghead himself, Mr. Voorhees.
So, if anyone who's joining us now doesn't know, Rob and I are in the middle of summer camp. So what we're doing is, on both of our respective podcasts, Rob on Movie Geek and Proud is doing movies earlier in the week on Wednesdays, and he's doing the lighter sense of summer. The fun, the school, the trips, the working. Here we're doing the death. But, Rob, you just did Adventureland on Wednesday this week.
That's right, yeah. So, in addition to the summer camp themed films, there are other activities and locations that people have to go through during the summer. So I incorporated summer jobs as well as summer school and other activities. And so this past Wednesday, I did a film about a kid who had to take a summer job because his parents financially no longer can support him going to college the following fall. So he takes a job at a carnival and he becomes a carny for the summer. And this also takes place in the 80s. It's called Adventureland. So yeah, I did a solo review. It's pretty short, but I did add on a quarantine quickie, which is a small review of a movie that I watched during quarantine last year, which also has a summer theme. So check that out if you like Adventureland at Movie Geek and Proud, a movie podcast on most streaming podcast apps.
I feel like in amusement park, you can't get any more summer than that. I mean, that is pure summer enjoyment. I mean, unless you live in a Florida or California, like some of us do.
Yeah. I can only imagine sort of the tedious and repetitive job it takes to like handle rides or deal with the carny games or whatever the case may be. This was my first watching the film too. So yeah, my opinion and review on there is from a first take. So
I can't wait to listen to what Rob thinks of it, because I haven't seen it since the initial viewing of it. And as I always say, the only reason I did go to see this was because A, the 80s, but B, because this is based on the Adventureland on Long Island that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And if anyone might have been a listener from the beginning, Rob and I did an early episode on Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I mentioned that there was an amusement park that had this tree monster that you could hear throughout the whole entire park. And this was from this Adventureland. It does not look anything like the movie makes it look to be. But I love that it's, in theory, based on this park, and you get the 80s music as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So, Rob, this is a big one. This is Friday the 13th, Part 2, 1981, a year after the original. And what I love about this is, evidently, this came out right before Halloween 2. So this actually beat Halloween 2 in the theaters, but Friday was based on taking the popularity of a movie like Halloween, which was a holiday-esque movie. So I love that it, A, started as something to cash in on Halloween, but then ended up now even coming up with a sequel before Halloween even came out with one.
I mean, strike while the iron's hot, honestly. Both franchises were supposed to be anthology movies, right? There was never supposed to be a Michael Myers after the first one, and honestly, there was no plan to do a Jason film. Like, we were supposed to get another horrific setting and feature and situation that possibly took place on Friday the 13th. We were not supposed to get the same for Halloween. Halloween was supposed to have a different story behind the holiday, and we weren't even supposed to get Michael Myers. So we have two horror icons that were born because we were so fascinated with the story that was given to us in the first one. And I think that's probably why the first one was such a mystery. And so it's just like, oh, solve the mystery. Now let's just move on to something else. You know, it's a tragic story. We'll just let the world in 2021 think, was that really the boy that came out, or was that a dream? We will never know. But nope, they decided to age him 30 years and then
Yeah, it's so funny. And if anyone wants a history too of things that are happening currently with this franchise, Rob's other podcast, yes, this man is a very busy man. He has a horror themed podcast along with his friend Nate, and they did a few episodes back on his premiere episode of his return, did a little history of where the rights are with the Friday the 13th characters. But it's funny that Jason really was meant to not be a thing.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he became a character in his own regards.
Yeah.
So in between movies, we see Alice, the hero of the last movie. She, in that canoe scene at the end, she sees teen or child Jason. So we're never explained in the sense of did he just kind of like grow up really quickly after that? Was it a spirit? What was all that? Was it hallucination?
Well, that's the thing. You know, this movie in between part 1 and 2 is a year. So what she saw was not a child. It was either an entity or in her head. We don't know. But that's something that I don't know if I should bring up now or later, depending on when you want me to talk about it. But Jason is already a grown man, right? So was he in hiding this whole time? And you know, Jenny, our antagonist, talks about this in a later scene where, what was he doing this whole time? You know, did he raise himself? What was he eating off of? But the thing is that Jason never revealed himself to his mom that he was alive this whole time, you know, and if he did witness her dying, you know, he obviously grabs her, you know, head or whatever and keeps it. So he was around this whole time and he never revealed himself to her. And it's just like, he's a grown man. What was he doing this whole time? Why was he, or did the mom know? Did Pamela know about him? And she still wanted to act out a revenge, but then subconsciously she's, you know, she's all schizo.
Right.
You know, so the timeline is a little weird, but I don't think he's a zombie. He's not dead. He's not an evil entity. He's an actual human being. But so, I mean, a lot of those questions are in this, and you're just like, how does this grown man, like, we'll talk about it, but yeah.
And to the point of the zombie, I feel like you're right. This is a living, breathing man at this point in Jason. This is not a magic, mystical, supernatural Jason.
It comes into play, and that's only because of how he's able to take on so much damage and harm to his body and still get up. So everyone probably assumes he's not of this world or something to be taking all of that, because normal human beings would die.
Right.
So
you would think.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like this one. If people know Jason, they know him mostly for his hockey mask, but we don't get the hockey mask until the next film. So we are introduced to Jason as he's sort of getting into his identity.
Evolution of Jason, right?
Exactly.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. So I do like this one because, yeah, it's definitely separate from the others, and I'll talk about more about that later.
To Rob's point about the sack on Jason's head, he doesn't have a mask on. Evidently, people have noted that this was a look from the killer in the movie The Town That Feared Sundown. So there's people saying that it could have bit that off. I kind of just think it goes with the theme that he is living out in the woods, this crazy woodsman kind of thing. Like, he just has I mean, what else does he have lying around? He's not going to have a mask lying around right now. We see how he gets the mask. Anyway, so, Rob, shall we get into this?
Yes, definitely.
We pick up with Alice, our heroine from the last movie, Adrienne King. This is crazy. Evidently, Adrienne King came on the set without having a script, not knowing that her character was even going to die the day that she was filming.
Oh, that's crazy. How do you film that? Like, I guess she can get startled right away and react, but they had to have told her before they hit action, right?
From what I read is they gave her parts as it was going, and by the end of the day, she just kind of like, oh, I'm dying today.
Oh, well, that sucks. Well, they probably didn't want her to deny, because she could probably just be like, well, I don't want to do it if you're just going to kill me. Like, recast me if I'm only in for the first 5 minutes.
You know, it's crazy. We mentioned this last week with David. So evidently Adrian had a stalker right after this movie, and it kind of took her right out of acting.
Gotcha.
And she agreed to do the sequel, but you're right. I wonder if she would even have agreed to do it if she had known it was going to be like for 5 minutes and then she was going to die.
See, I always think that these characters are just like, look, I'll be in your movie, but you got to kill me off immediately. Like, I'm not trying to make this about my life right now. I always think that way, and I'm sure it most of the time it's not, but usually, you know, I just think like, okay, just end me. Just, I'm done. Like, I want to move on, so just kill me right away.
Didn't they do that with Sarah Michelle Gellar's character in The Grudge 2? I didn't even end up seeing The Grudge 2, but I think they brought her back in the beginning just to kill her. I hate when they do that. They just bring the character back just to be like, oh, you were originally a part of this, but you don't get a happy ending.
Well, it's better in the 2 minutes in the beginning than the last 90 seconds of the end of the movie.
Oh my God, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true. We find out that Alice has been going through it. She's been having issues ever since she survived. And matter of fact, Rob, as I love to say, this is the longest intro ever with a recap of they could have just played the last 10 minutes of the original Friday the 13th at this point. We see her running, rolling, going through it, biting Pamela Voorhees' hand. I mean, everything.
I was trying to think if they've done a recap longer than this, and maybe the one that I have in my head is this film, but I could have swore there was another movie where they just oh no, you know what it was? Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh,
the sequel, literally the entire half of the film was nothing but a recap. And they just constantly kept showing clips of the first one because this guy was talking through his experience while he was in the hospital. That's a long intro that had nothing to do with the sequel. But yes, I clocked it at 6 minutes and 22 seconds of recap.
I'm so glad you did that.
Hell yeah, I did that. I was really curious. I mean, aside from that creepy ass little kid playing in water in the dark, singing, oh my God, never in my life.
He was waiting for Pennywise.
You want to worry about little kids, worry about that one. Jason's like, nothing compared to that creepy ass kid. And he's just in water getting his socks wet, and then he's going to come in the house all dirt. No, I can't. But I'm a little puzzled as to how Jason knew where this woman lived.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I have to remember that he was a child when he died. I don't know of the actual exposure to the world that he was given through his mom, but like, I'm sure he knows how to read. I'm sure he knows how to use a telephone or whatever the case. Anybody can get behind a wheel and maybe drive, but it's like
Michael Myers,
right? Where does this woman live, and how the hell did he find her?
She has to live close by, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember I think I read one of the facts last week when we recorded that it was that her father lived in New York or something, but evidently the novelization of the first movie differed from the real script, so we'll never know how Jason found Alice. This is one of the questions I actually had for Rob, but okay, for lack of a better way to kill Alice.
But honestly, I didn't mind this scene because I can only imagine what it was like in theaters to watch this and think, okay, well, this final girl's gonna come back. She's experienced, she knows what to do, and she's been through this, so it's like, yeah, let's bring her back. And they probably expected her to go through all of this shit again. Come to find out, they took her ass out immediately.
So did Adrian King, evidently. It's like, oh, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I'm sure it was a nice shock to everyone to find out that she wasn't going to, be in throughout the movie. They Barrymored her, and, maybe that was a shock to people, and that's what they tried to do.
Rob, do you like this trope, though? Do you like that when they bring back the character just to kill them? I rather them just have a happy ending, honestly. Yes, it connects the movie.
Well, I'm always going to wonder what's going on with them. Like, this is a little off topic, but Danielle Harris, who is mostly known for her Halloween involvement, she actually is directing a film called Final Girls. So from what I read, it's a therapy group session of Final Girls. And it's not like the horror icon Final Girls. It's basically women who have survived horrific situations like, a big massacre from a serial killer or whatnot. So all of these girls who survived get together and actually work out their issues. And I want to say that they are going to also start dying one by one, but you always have in the back of your mind, like, what happened to you? Did you go crazy? Are you dealing with this? Like, how are you functioning? I love the fact that Laurie Strode got a 40-year, arc where it's like this woman couldn't just move on and live happily ever after.
Yes.
Like, you get traumatized over shit like this. So if they didn't have her in the movie, I would always wonder what happened to her. Is the answer death? Probably not. But again, it's like, we want to know how you move on from this. And so apparently she doesn't like her mom, and that was it. Can you imagine that's your last conversation with your mother and you die?
I was thinking that. I said, damn, you're going to have this conversation with your mother, and then you're opening the fridge, and you're going to see Pamela Voorhees' head.
Yeah, crazy.
Did you think Pam's hair looked a little... I think it looks a little different. I think they got a different wig. I'm sorry. I do not like the hair that they used for Pamela's head on. Too long for my taste. She has like a short hair in the original.
Yeah, but I mean, this big dude is super sneaky. He's like a ninja. I mean, I don't know how he crept in that small ass apartment, put the head in the fridge, and hid. He probably smells like shit. She didn't notice any orders at all in her house. I don't know. I know he ain't got no freshener on. I don't know what was going on, but he managed to accomplish all of this flawlessly.
It's from the rain. Everything just smelled terribly.
One other thing that I will say about the scene, and then we can move on, is the shower curtain. I love that reveal because the biggest thing in the first one was that the cameraman was the POV of the killer. And so anytime that you see the camera move towards something, you think it's them. And then she opens the curtain, shower curtain, and her face is like right in front of the camera. That was pretty scary. I like that jump scare. I thought that was pretty cool.
And don't you think if she really survived this is what would really be happening to somebody in real life? I think I would be doing the same thing, checking continuously everything you do.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah, we can get into like the big psychology of this scene too, because a lot of it was kind of told in the background. She's channeling all of her thoughts and memories of this in art. That's her therapeutic way of dealing with it.
Yes.
I mean, there's a story here. She's really going through something right now. And living alone, I don't even know how she's able to even do that. But I clocked the entire revenge carried out in the first 12 minutes. I'm not mad at the revenge. I'm not. I think
it makes sense.
I think if like you killed my mom, I'm gonna have to take you out. Like that's just how it is, I guess. But I didn't know he was so like I guess
smart.
Well, not smart, but just conscious enough to have like a revenge feeling. Because you would think he would just stick to the people that go to camp and not worry about stragglers and I gotta tie up loose ends and shit. Like I don't see him that way, but I don't think he was mentally challenged either. I just think that he is just socially inept. I don't think he's mentally challenged. I mean, because he has a bit of deformity, but that doesn't mean that he's mentally challenged. So it's just like like maybe he's conscious enough to be like, yeah, let's just carry out a revenge. I just want to know how he got there.
And you know what? I'll give it to him too, because like you said, this isn't the zombie Jason. Maybe as it goes on, almost when he does die and then comes back to life, it becomes more of that, like he basically stays on the camp Crystal Ground area around there. But yeah, I agree. I just want to know how he got here.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure a novel probably explains somewhere. I should have researched that. But that was one of them.
And one other thing, I also wrote down that he probably likes tea because he took the kettle off when it was buzzing.
He did.
He had himself a cup of tea before he left. He was just sitting there observing his work, talking to his mom, having a cup of tea, then he left.
I didn't know that Alice's body is there in that shrine later on, Rob. Did you know that skeleton is supposed to be Alice?
But why would it decompose so quickly? Well,
they said 5 years has passed.
You're right. They did say 5 years, but then how is the head preserved?
Yeah, it's really like, if anyone doesn't know, like there's the shrine with Pamela Voorhees' head, but there's kind of like a body against it. This is evidently officially Alice, but it's weird, like,
how did he get that body all the way? Oh, wow,
how
that's
did he
crazy.
Get it back? Did
I didn't
he
know
drive?
That. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
He's holding Pam's head, and
I know
he's carrying
semantics.
Alice's body.
Like I would try and turn this all realism or whatever while I'm watching Friday the 13th.
But I feel like these are the most I feel like going forward, the original and this movie, Rob, have the most connection in the sense of they bring back Alice. It's more still a mystery. This is before we get into Jason the hockey mask killer, and I really think these two movies are separate from the whole. group. Like, these two could have worked as almost just two movies on their own.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're definitely witnessing the psychosis of this grown man who is still tied to his mother, and the possibility of just kind of going psycho bitch crazy over the fact that he watched his mom's head chopped off. So yeah, they definitely connect. So I like this one so much. There's so much story. I don't know, I just like it.
It's actually one of the most well-liked out of the franchise. Number 2 is usually people's favorite, which is Rob's right on point. This is 5 years later. A new summer training camp for counselors is being opened down the road from the now deserted and dilapidated Camp Crystal Lake.
Camp Blood.
Yes, Camp Blood. This makes more sense to me than opening Camp Crystal Lake again.
Yeah.
Because one time could have been a fluke. When it happened 5 years earlier, this is not a place you need to open as a camp. There's clearly something going on here.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense that it's apparently very close by. Like, it's not even that far. You don't have to cross a freeway up or anything to get to it. You can literally just walk there within minutes. So
it's probably literally on the same campground. It's probably like, oh, there's where those bunks end, and then these.
So yeah, unfortunately, I've never been to camp, but it shares a lake. So I mean, a lake, I would say a body of water that's not too big. So when you share a lake, the land must connect. I mean, it's not like an island. So I guess it is pretty close.
Ooh. So we get, though, a new group of counselors. And I have to say, much like the first movie, these counselors aren't really unlikable. Going forward, there's a lot of unlikable characters, I feel like. They become more shallow, they become nastier, more cliched, like waiting to be killed because I'm a nasty person kind of thing. These people seem real still, the group. And they all kind of have like a great dynamic. And this is a big ass. We've never seen this many counselors, I feel like, in scenes.
Yeah,
in a Friday movie.
Were you disappointed that you didn't get a higher body count given how much ammunition was in there?
I'm surprised, and I didn't remember that half the counselors were dancing the night away, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am surprised that how small the body count is.
That's why I really love that scene where it's time to go out of town. Like, okay, we did a little training here, a little there. Now tomorrow everything begins. This is your last chance to have fun and get out there. And everybody's like, yeah, I want to go to town. And then the camera just slowly goes over everyone who's there. And then one by one, you just hear the people who have decided to stay behind. And it's like, all of you have just signed your fate for not wanting to go out drinking. Like, can you imagine? That is the pinnacle of your life, is deciding if you want to go out or not. Like, that's it. And it's just so crazy. It was like, okay, there's your body count. And then they have like a shot where all of them are in the same frame, and you're just like, this is the last time all of you guys will be alive and together all at the same time. And it just sucks. It just sucks because it's such an innocent, like, normal day for them. Nobody's thinking about Jason. They all just kind of one wants to be by his crush. Another one was punished and they couldn't go out because they fucked up earlier in the day. And the other one had no fucking choice because he's banned to a wheelchair and he's in training.
But I like that girl.
And the girl wanted to stay with him. It's just these little small decisions that can change your life. And it just sucked. But I just liked how the scene was executed. It's just like, oh, you're dead. Oh, you're dead. Oh, you want to stay, you're dead. You know, just sucks.
Did you think at some point, like, I don't know if you could think back to God the first time you saw this, but I always thought that somehow some of them were going to come back and then end up getting, like, the second half were going to get wiped out. But,
you know, to be honest, especially in the 80s, a body count of at least 3, maybe 4, but at least 3 is actually good. I mean, you're lucky to get at least 3 people dying in a slasher film, to be honest, because depending on the dynamics, how, you know, the scare tactic or whatever, if it's just like a bloodbath, then yes, kill as many people. But this movie still tried to scare you with suspense. And I think just this long, slow burn of them, you know, creeping and hiding and just, you know, whatever, like, you lose some of that time to actually execute a murder. And so the fact that we got 6 is actually pretty good.
Including our crazy Ralph from the first movie comes back to do his crazy Ralphness and just warn these kids that they're all doomed.
Told the others. They didn't believe me. You're all doomed. You're all doomed.
AKA the Harbinger is what they call him.
Yeah.
Every slasher film has the Harbinger, one that warns everyone what you're getting into, and if you die, it's because you chose. Nobody forced you. Somebody's always going to give you that option to just turn back and go home.
I asked this to David last episode. Was he Roma Downey? Was he a messenger sent, an angel sent to warn them? Because they ended up dying that night that he does warn these kids. Or is he just happened to be right? Is there something all that this is all this all is meant to happen, as we always like to say? Every time he comes around though and warns kids, they die. So something about Ralph coming around.
I think Ralph being the voice of reason, or, you know, the person who warns everyone, very important. But then they turned him into a creeper. And it's like, look,
yeah,
go ahead and spread the gospel, get everybody scared of me. But if you're going to be creeping around and being peeping Toms and shit, then I'm going to have to take your ass out because you're being nasty. You know, I warned you, stay out of my fucking way. Stay out of my way. Because I don't know if the film tried to hint that he might be the new Jason. I was like, just get rid of him. I was actually glad when they got rid of Crazy Ralph. I was over it. I was like, you're not fooling anybody that this could be the new killer, but he was just a creeper. He was just annoying. I was just go, him and his bicycle.
Again, ties to the original. They're like, oh, we got this one character, Ralph. He was so important. We got to bring him back again.
I don't know what he does for a living or if he lives nearby, but he just loves being around all this crap when he's like telling everybody else to stay away. Like, what are you doing around? I don't know. It was time for him to go.
It's like these people that you always wonder that are too invested in other people's lives. Like, yes, okay, yeah, you're trying to save people. That's nice. But what do you care? Like, to go drive your bike all the way to Camp Crystal Lake, wherever you come from.
But as much as I was okay with him, you know, dying in this movie, he's actually not the worst character in this movie. I am giving I'm giving it to Paul, our head counselor. He is a dick.
You think Paul is the worst?
Did not like Paul. I did not like him. In this movie, I don't know why the time that I watched this earlier this week, Paul is a dick. I don't know. Look, I understand that he is
Lon's pretty boy.
He's, you know, the head counselor. He has to make sure everything goes right. It was the way that he condescended in front of the other counselors and Ginny when she arrives. I thought that was bullshit. And then just the way that he kind of like mansplained himself a little bit throughout this movie. It was just a little, I don't know, her opinion just didn't matter to him that I've noticed. He was probably a sweetheart to her, but at the same time, I just didn't find him to be a fun character. And I really didn't expect him to live the way that he was coming off.
Yes, he's unconfirmed because we don't know what happens to him.
Yeah.
We assume because, I mean, we'll get into the ending later, but he's there and then he's he died?
Anymore. I don't know. He just seems like a character that would easily die in the middle of the movie.
Exactly. The one of the first, you would think. One of them, maybe the third.
Because he's a love interest. See, and this is the thing. In my horror podcast, I said this. I was like, if you want to live, you have to be dating the final girl. You have to be related to her or the gay best friend. And that in that order.
And he says it on his podcast too, though. But if you're the best friend, though, you're low.
Yeah, you're very low. Like, you have to make sure that the sibling and the love interests are either evil people or out of the way. That better your chances of surviving. But because he's a love interest, he gets to live. But then there's also this idea of the rescuer too, you know?
Yes.
And I'm not saying that he shouldn't have been, but I think she was kind of handling it just fine without him, you know? So
I gotta say, Jenny in this movie. It's not Ginny, right? It is Jenny.
Jenny.
It is.
Yeah, it's with
Ginny.
an I. Ginny.
Oh, Ginny. So Ginny is late, and Rob's right. Paul gives her the rundown. I guess he wants to show off to these other counselors that he's in command here. So it is hinted, right, that they are sleeping with each other. Almost like this is a parallel to Alice, who they kind of, in the original one, person was trying to start Camp Crystal Lake up again. I forgot. I know his last name is Christie something. You could tell continuity. I could just remember from last week just watching this movie how well. But Alice, the lead from the original one, had a thing going on with the guy who was opening the camp. So it's like a mirror image again.
Yeah.
These things are happening. And matter of fact, I feel like Ginny rides through the town that we see in the original one as well really quickly. There's like a diner, a gas station where Crazy Ralph is. Rob, is part of your love for this movie the character of Ginny? and how smart she is. I think she's one of the smartest final girls.
I mean, I will say that part 2 was actually one of my least favorites when I was watching this series as a kid. This movie grew on me every time I rewatched it. And aside from the brilliant jump scares that I thought they had, the look of Jason with his sack head, but the final girl in Amy Steele, you know, she also was our lead in April Fool's Day. And I just love how tough as nails as she is, but she's also like a jokester. She, you know, knows how to have fun, but she also speaks her mind, you know, when she's hiding. And I've said this, at least to myself, but I've said this, when I like about final girls are ones who know how to be tactful in their fear. So she definitely yells when she's startled or whatever, but when it's time to hide, she's not sitting there holding in her sniffles and her crying and her breathing, you know, like when it's time to shut the fuck up, shut up. You know, like if you're gonna hide, if you're gonna run away, like be quiet about it. But you'll also see later in the movie, you know, she's bringing the fight to Jason. We're getting POVs.
Yes.
We're getting POVs of Jason going around searching for this hidden assailant that's gonna come out and get him. You know, it's usually the other way around. And that was the one thing that I liked about this, is that it wasn't always, you know, the victim goes and hides and waits for the killer to find them. Like Jason had some searching to find. Like, I just liked how she handled herself. You know, she grieved and she cried when she had to. And then when she had to be quiet, she zipped it. She was, you know.
So you brought up this scene. Let's just cut to it. When she's hiding under the bed, does Ginny pee out of fear, or is it the rat? This has been a conversation that's been going on over the years.
I didn't know that rats can pee that much. And in that
I swear I've seen this online. People say it's the rat. I do not think it's the rat.
No, it's her. It's her. She's super scared, and instead of yelling and crying, she is letting go of her bowels. Because, yeah, there's a rat literally in her face while she's hiding. The woman is scared. So
you've never heard I literally, over the years, I've seen
never
debates.
They're
like, it's the rat that pees. I'm like, no, it's gonna come to her, wait for her, and just go pee. So
that was a heavy flow. If that was the rat, I've never seen a rat pee, so I don't know. But
I'm glad we put that to bed. If anyone has questions, it wasn't the rat that peed. Oh my God, Rob. We also have a counselor that brings a dog this time to the camp. And did you like this scene where they show the dog missing and then all of a sudden it shows them cooking hot dogs?
So horrible. And, you know, I don't know if it's shenanigans to have this, like, ball of fur on the ground with some, like, color.
Yes!
Like, I don't know what other animal that could have been, along with
that was supposed to be that dog. I'm sorry.
Because when Muffin shows up, she has the blue bow in her head.
Yes.
So it's like, you couldn't even take the bow off and made it look like that the bow came off. It's kind of ridiculous.
Muffin was living the best life. She was probably in some kind of spa in the camp. She was not having any of
she
it.
smelled that shit a mile away and was like, this fucking killer is about to kill all you bitches. I'm going over here until this blows over, and then I'm coming back to camp. She looked at Jason once and was like, I'm out. You remember when they met?
Yes.
She was like, I ain't fucking around with this. I'm out. I am out.
So did Jason, okay, so now that we know that Muffin really isn't killed because Muffin comes at the end in one of the scares.
But is she though? So I don't know how you want to jump around, but we can also talk about the fact of how much of that ending actually happened.
Okay.
So
actually...
So I also wrote here that not only does Jason like tea, that he's also a fan of animals and he likes dogs. We're assuming. So here's the thing. Ginny comes back from the bar and she obviously finds a bloody mess in one of the bedrooms, hinting that some shit's gone down. She's with Paul, and oh my God, I love this scare because Ginny is in the back just witnessing this entire thing in the span of the room.
Yes.
And she's like, somebody is in this room with us, and then out comes a figure and she yells it out again. And so Paul...
Oh, I love that.
That was great.
Yes.
Wasn't that great? And so...
it feels real, Rob. When
definitely
she says that.
real.
Someone's in this room!
Yeah, exactly. So Paul and Jason have a struggle, and they kind of wrestle behind this couch. And from Ginny's point of view, we don't see who won the battle. She's calling out Paul's name. Jason rises up, so we can assume that Paul is either knocked out or dead.
I think Paul did.
So we go through this entire chase scene. She goes through hell and high water to survive, and that includes putting on a dead person's sweater and taking the huge risk of pretending to be the man's mother in order to get by him. I mean, this was some heavy risk taking right now. Like, I just can't believe the balls on her, but this is why I love her so much. You know, fast forward to the end, they get to back into a cabin, and then all of a sudden Paul is alive, and he comes in, he's like, Jenny, and then he wrestles them again, and then again
Yeah, I thought he was dead the first
Yeah.
time. Yeah. And then
they wrestle again, and then he disappears again. And then again, what happens is while they're fighting, Jenny takes a machete into his shoulder and like deep roots it into his bone.
Nice.
He goes down, and then Paul and Jenny go back to the cabin and they find Muffin. Muffin comes out the door, and they treat it as a jump scare because something's scratching at the door. And then as Muffin approaches Jenny, Jason plows through the window, gives the biggest jump scare that I think in history is one of the best I've ever seen. Combined with the music, combined with the camera angles, the slow motion, everything. You even got to see his face in full force. Like, if you wanted to know what was under that sack head, you got to see it, and it was right there. I would love to see this in theaters.
I love the reveals. I love the face reveals when you get them.
That music and everything was just perfect. It was perfect. But after that, it fades to white. She wakes up in a hospital gurney, and then she's calling out Paul's name. We don't know where Paul is. Here's the thing. What actually happened? How did she survive that jump scare? You know, is this I Know What You Did Last Summer when she jumps through the... where he jumps through the shower door? Like, yeah, it must have been some kind of dream. Did she go a little crazy? But how far do we go back? Maybe that was Muffin who was torn to bits, and we never got Muff. Maybe this was her trying to channel some happier ending where something else happened. Did she get knocked out at some point? We never know what happened to Paul. So at what point do you think, was it all real? Or did it really all play out? But again, how did she escape that? When did the cops in the hospital come? Like, all of that can be questioned. So the idea is, to get back to the point, is that Muffin actually could have died, and she never came at the end because it looked like her on the ground. It looked like the dog on the ground.
Exactly. They made it so, I mean, I guess you want it to look somewhat like the character that you want it to look like a dead dog. But what, like Rob said earlier, what are the odds that another small white dog was killed? It wasn't like a rat. It wasn't a rabbit. It wasn't like a animal from the woods.
The ribbon was there. So, yeah.
Right. If they would have had it that the ribbon was loose too, like you said, and somehow it got loose and blew to the corpse.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is, again, the mirror of the original one with Alice in the canoe all calm. This is Muffin coming. She goes, Muffin! Like, it's like she sees this dog. It saved her life almost. Muffin! So it's happy, that music. And Rob said, boom! He grabs her. It's like Jason grabbing Alice in the beginning and taking her underwater. And they just wake up. So yes, do all the final girls just, at this point, lose their minds? By the last 10 minutes?
I don't know. I mean, it's a very traumatic thing, right? But, you know, these movies so far have made very ambiguous endings to, I guess, further expand the franchise and give people more reasons to have a sequel, because there wasn't no final showdown that was carried out. So now that we're like, oh, we don't know what happened, let's just make another one now.
Sequel. I really enjoy that they set the car not working, Ginny's car, early on. It's actually a thing. It is not a horror movie trope that all of a sudden the car does not start. She's literally late because her car isn't working. And then she keeps trying to get the car to start. So that, to me, is great writing because it sets it up, like, as the character arrives. She was late because her car doesn't work. So when she goes back later and the car isn't working, yes, it makes sense. It's not magical. The car stopped working now, which was what we'll get in future movies with Jason.
So, yeah, I think you have a real good point there. And I also love that how it was executed, because they even made it into a joke on how she pretended the car wouldn't start.
Yes.
When the whole time it did work, at least for that moment. And, you know, she got back at Paul for making her look like shit for arriving late. So I love that. And that, again, just says more about how awesome the Ginny character is.
To add even more, Rob, the only way we got to the Pamela Voorhees disguise is because Ginny Jenny, she really thought about the whole thing about Jason and his mother. Because when they have that thing where they're talking about Jason around the campfire to get it over with, okay, we're going to bring it up. And then that's the last I want to hear. Like, it's this thing. She was asking questions and she was like, well, it must be because he saw the death of his mother. She's smart enough to even think of these things. So when it happens later, again, it's not like, oh, all of a sudden she just thinks, oh, I'm going to put this dead woman's...
And pretend to be the mom.
Yeah, it makes sense that she at least has thought of a psychological reason for all of this.
Well, I think it's actually kind of a fun conversation to be like, oh, this urban legend, ooh, it's kind of creepy. But if you really break it down and have this shit really happen, this is, you know, and she feels sorry for Jason at the same time because he didn't choose this life, you know? I mean, it's just a very unfortunate event that happened and all of these people are now paying for it, just being at the wrong place at the wrong time, which this is another reason why I love this movie is because I love all of the counselors. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
oh, yes. Well,
aside from Paul, but I just think they're all just really cool people. They're not overly sexed. They're just living their best lives. Nobody was in here being a nymphomaniac and it wasn't like thrown into your face, but the whole idea of like sex kills you and all that stuff was pretty brought out. But everybody did their normal amount of like flirting. Couples didn't cheat on each other. Like they were just having a good time, but playing the pranks, all of the dad jokes that they were saying throughout the whole movie. Everybody looked like they were having fun. I just loved these group of people. I just thought they were all fun.
When you like the characters, it's even worse when they're being killed off one by one. Like we mentioned earlier, there's a character Mark that is in a wheelchair. And this one other counselor, she sees past that.
Yeah.
I love that her character is not caring that he's in a wheelchair or not. She wants to get to know him. She stays, well, they're supposed to have this night out. And to your point, Rob asked me yesterday, like, would you have stayed in or out? I would have been dead because I would have stayed home.
I wouldn't have gone out. I honestly think
dead.
At that moment, I wouldn't have gone out. You know, I'm already away from home. It depends how many people I knew. If I didn't know that many people at camp, I wouldn't have gone out. Had I known a lot of them, I would have been like, oh yeah, let's go out and have fun. I totally would have done that. But
bye, Rob. I would have been fighting Jason with Muffy.
Yeah, but I would have chilled in my cabin or my room or whatever the whole time and just hung out because I'm not about the beer life. I can't with beer. Like, yeah, can't do it. And if I was gay too, like, I'm not trying to kick it at some straight bar with all of these people. Like, no.
Well, how do you know all those counselors?
I know, right? Who knows? But
I'm looking at them. Not all of them can be straight.
But on top, but on top of that too, like most of them were really hot, like women and men. They were just a good, attractive bunch that I liked in this movie.
Of course. You know you're gonna get, and especially as the series goes on, you're gonna get attractive counselors / teens, and they just get better looking and better looking. I feel like as these series go on and they move past. But I mean, we have normal everyday people mixed in. You get the geek or the one that's a little awkward and this and that. But do you think it almost changes the fact that the people that went out were the partiers, the drinkers, and they all survived?
Yeah.
So the people that chose to stay home, yes, one couple was having sex, but they weren't doing drugs. They weren't doing...
That's the other thing. It's like Vicky and Mark didn't even have sex and they still got taken out. Well, let's talk about the kills. What did you like the kills that were executed?
We get Alice with the ice pick in her head.
Yeah. They didn't show anything, so that was kind of a missed opportunity, but very visually gross at the same time.
Who has an ice pick anymore? Right, this wouldn't be a kill anymore. No one's dying with an ice pick anymore.
Sharon Stone.
Well, that's the that's the biggest one. True. Crazy Ralph, he gets killed with barbed wire.
Barbed wire. That was kind of inventive. I like that.
Oh, I forgot the deputy. The
hammer in the head. Okay, so here's the thing with the deputy. This was our first glimpse at Sackhead. Like, we didn't know
yes.
exactly what Jason was going to look like. And it's really quick, but he runs across the road as he's patrolling, and you see that he's wearing some kind of bag over his head. But we still don't get a clear shot. And I was like, oh, okay, so that's your first look. It is very creepy. And as a cop, he did his job, and he stopped, and he went to go get him, because he's not supposed to be there. So, but he finds all that shit, and then he gets a hammer in the head. So his reaction, his face when he died, that was creepier than Jason.
It really was.
This face that he gave, I was like, oh my God, you're creepy looking like that.
Deputy Winslow, by the way.
Oh, really?
We know another Winslow.
That was his
who
last
a cop.
name? That's funny.
Oh my God. We also got Scott, who gets his throat slit.
Oh, okay. So Scott is the hottest guy there, and we don't get to see. He's the one with the most clothes on. Like, what a disservice. He's such a handsome man, though.
Still to today.
Yeah.
Why didn't he have his clothes on?
I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to outshine the actual stars of the movie. Who knows, to be honest? But he is the only. We didn't get to see any of Jesse. Like, we got a little bit when he arrived because he had like an open button shirt or whatever. But he was the suave one. Still kind of played it cool. He wasn't an overbearing like creeper or whatever. But yeah, he tried to, but that's the thing. He stayed behind because he had a crush on this girl and he kept messing with her or whatever. But yeah, that sucked for him. They did show the
Things
knife
with the throat always get me. I hate slicing throats like visually, and then they always show it opening.
Yeah.
So the next kill is Mark Jarvis. You like that his last name
I know,
Jarvis?
right?
Very common name that comes up in this place. Okay,
Yeah.
but Mark gets the machete to the face,
For
but
no
then he
reason.
rolls down the stairs.
Where did those flight of stairs come from? Did you? I love how it just magically appeared that these stairs were right there for him to fall down. I mean,
the longest set.
Everybody got
stairs,
killed
Rob.
instantly. This man needed to, and he was still alive when he went down those stairs. I mean, it's horrible.
That's the thing. They made them suffer. They've like, well, he's in a wheelchair, so we can't bypass this way to be able to kill this man even worse.
It's because
impale him.
It's because he was able to like kick everybody's ass at arm wrestling, so he's not like that defenseless. So
I love that.
They were like, we can kill him even though he's in a wheelchair because he's not that weak. Even though you're not weak when you're in a wheelchair, but I'm just saying it's like he can't fight for himself.
Working.
Yeah, he can't fight for himself in a wheelchair against Jason. But like, we'll justify his death because he's still, a man. He can still take down arm wrestling, and yeah, it's whatever.
Well, what is that movie, Rob, Knack and Me, where the kid is like goes over with the wheelchair? There's like a movie famously where there's a wheelchair shot.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
This flight of stairs, like Rob said, there's a lot of stairs here.
It's just unfortunate. But I will say this, Mark, it's kind of on him because she was giving signs like day one. You could have hit that anytime and you just kept prolonging. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of is that he's a gentleman. He just assumed that nobody was going to be into him or whatever. But like, if he had just caught on earlier, they could have hooked up so earlier if he had just like given into the flirtation because it was so obvious.
She gave him that look.
Yeah.
I mean, like, she's like, I'm going to stay home.
Yeah.
And looked at him
and
like,
he was like, suit yourself. Yeah. And I'm like, Lord.
Oh, yeah. He said that.
Get the hint. But it was cute. I like those two. And Vicky was such a nice girl. Such a nice girl. I love her. Okay, so Vicky, she is our conduit to where we finally get to see Sackhead in all of his form. Pops out of bed. We finally get to see what he looks like. I don't know if first impressions of a man with a bag over his head with one eye hole, I don't know if that translated well, but I thought it was creepy. But the only thing I thought of is like, this whole damn time you've been killing bitches, splattering blood everywhere, living in the woods.
Yes.
And that bag was clean as shit. Like, does he have like 3 or 4 of them on him and he just switches them out? Like, that bag was clean. I was like, how did you do all of it and not dirty up that bag at all?
Would you have preferred it to be more burlappy so it didn't have that like white?
It would look kind of itchy. I don't know. It's very Scarecrow. I kind of actually like the normal bag, like he's very resourceful. He's just picking up where he goes. He's learning as he goes along. He doesn't know what he wants to do. He just knows he needs to cover his face. He could have put on that monster mask later on in the movie. He could have done that, but
yeah. Could that have been in Alice's house? Could he have gotten like a pillowcase or something from her house?
That could be it.
Because
too.
Where did he get this clean cloth from that?
Yeah.
Like Rob's saying, living in the woods, killing people. Jeff and Sandra. This is the shish kebab.
They were so cute together too. I like them. That couple.
This is like close to the Kevin Bacon kill almost.
Yes.
In the original where
yeah.
impaled through the
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, very good. So yeah, they have their moment, they're fun, and then in a moment of cuddling embrace, they die. Like, sucks. sucks. These people are just living their lives. They're not doing anything to nobody. It just sucks.
Yeah, you get that they possibly were a couple even. They just love each other. I'm really going deep with this.
So
Make it even sad. But...
So what do you think about this? Because this is our first Jason, right? Jason may not have the exact same motivations as his mom. She's obviously triggered by seeing sex all the time. It's a reminder that's what you'd rather do instead of watching kids drown, and saving them or whatever. So
right.
Is he being triggered by the same things? Like, does he have this thing about seeing sexuality? Yeah, like seeing sexuality played out, or can they survive if they actually do their job? Like, what is it that's triggering, or it's just the fact that they're just on the grounds? I don't know.
That's what always upsets me, that these people who like a Vicky, nothing wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I would say, yeah, the sex, but continue, Rob. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Well, I mean, she's kind of walking around half naked. It's implied that she obviously is going to be promiscuous this night, so I don't know. So I don't know. I wonder what it is that's triggering him, except for you're a teen, you're on this campground. I'm just reliving the past. I want to take you all out because you're trying to be a counselor. And I don't know. So it's just interesting, but it sucks that we never really got motivation. But again, it's more of that scary trope, like, you can't be having sex because when you do, that's when you die. So I'm assuming that's what's being played out.
Do you think almost, Rob, that after Alice had these kids not gone to this area, maybe it would have ended with her?
With Alice, you mean?
With Alice, unless someone stumbled upon I feel like Jason was just lying dormant, evidently living in Camp Crystal Lake in that little house.
I think he was definitely in his own sanctuary, just, stay away from the woods. He went out purely for revenge because he could have easily stayed in town, killed more people. So I guess he's not a serial killer. He's not choosing to kill people. It's just stop trespassing and I won't touch you. I'm just living my best life with my mama. Just leave us alone.
Aww. Just to get back to that scene for one more minute with the head of Pamela, that could have gone.
He hesitates.
So wrong.
He questions it twice. She had to raise her voice for her point to get across.
Jason, Mother is talking to you.
Jason, Mother is talking to you.
Bitch, don't let me put you over my knee. Seriously, she almost failed. You know what
this sweater means.
Yeah, she almost failed.
This is your mother's sweater.
But I mean, she understood her target. She knew exactly what was going on. And yeah, it could have gone either way. And it just sucks that, she just moved a little to the right and messed all up. But he puts
two and two together. He's like, oh, no.
Yeah. But he kneeled down. He was ready to do whatever Mom said. And I don't know what she was going to do, but it's why didn't she go for the head?
Would she have killed him? Would she have beheaded him? I wonder.
She had actually a couple of choice, opportunities to take him out. I wrote here in my notes, I was during this last chase scene, she has the chainsaw. I don't know if she officially cut him with it, but he ends up on the ground. And instead of taking the chainsaw and cutting off a foot or something, she takes a chair and beats him with it and then runs. And I'm like, no, this is the time you need to just take a life. I'm sorry. I know that nobody initially or inherently can just kill on a whim.
Yeah.
But I think this is the actual time you need to take a life if you want to live. Because here's the thing. Let me hit you with a chair. You're maybe knocked out. Where are you going to go? Where is she going to go for safety? That he's not going to... It's just such a weird thing that she chose.
Her car don't start, clearly.
It's just weird she chose not to kill him. She had a chainsaw and she took a chair instead. It's just weird. But she takes the machete and gets him in the shoulder and not in the head. You want to make sure this man is done. It's just the choices. The choices is very alarming.
Do you think had she had seen him without the get up on, that it might have been okay, this is a creature. It almost humanizes the person still because she can't see the face. But still, yeah, this is the point that you have to either say me or this person.
Yeah.
Or at least throw so much on that person that bury them with everything. I don't even know. No, I guess you would just have to kill them.
Yeah, but
radical ones.
But like you said, this was a very nice closing arc to this storyline. We got a huge understanding as to why Jason is so infatuated with his mom. She says this line, he never had any friends. She was all that he had.
Yes.
And that's such an important line. Yeah. And so I like how how this ended. And even with that big jump scare, the knife was still in his body when he came after her. Like, so good. You know what? I'm just such a masochist. I actually replayed that jump scare like 3 times in a row. I just like how it's shot. It just looks so good the way that it was executed.
It's a great shot. It really is.
Even that pan shot where she's locked herself in the bathroom and she doesn't know if he left and she's trying to reach for the window to escape and then he comes through the window. Like, that was great. That was great. So, like I said, overall, I love the jump scares. I think this movie is very subtle and it's not oversexed, which I think down the line is what happened to these films, is that it just kept putting these one-dimensional characters who all they wanted to do was get laid. There was no substance to most of them. And I just like the character of Jenny and just how strong she was. And again, the kills I think were fun. And I enjoyed all the count. I just overall just think this movie was just well executed. It just sucks we didn't get backstory and explanation to some of the plot holes.
Truly well written. I agree. Rob's right. I feel like especially this one adds to the mythos of Jason and these little things like Rob was saying where she says his mother was all. It's so true. That's all you had, it makes sense for this to, if you had to continue this franchise, this would be the natural progression. Because in the first one, honestly, Jason is a sympathetic character because he had nothing to do with, like, he was just this poor child that drowned because the counselors weren't paying attention. But then can you still feel bad too? Is this just someone who snapped after they saw his mother die? Not that, of course, you could forgive someone for doing all this, especially what happens continuously.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, did they know about each other? Was he, did she know that he was still alive? We don't know. So that's one of the things that I would have loved to find out as the story went on. But you read something that you sent me that I thought was so fascinating. So what was that you read about?
Of course, we end up with a part 3. Ginny was actually asked to come back. Maybe she heard about what happened with Alice, Rob. Wait, you're going to ask me to come back and then what, you're going to kill me?
Exactly.
But Steele feared being typecast and declined the offer, but it was going to be basically Ginny in a mental hospital, and then Jason was going to come seek her to kill her in this mental hospital. So Halloween 2, basically almost as well, which I wonder is another reason why they might have changed it. It says now the actress actually said she regrets not doing it.
But do we want him killing off grounds though? It's the woods, it's the camp, it's the ambiance, it's the woods is technically a character in itself. Like, do we want him out there killing in different areas? I don't know if I would have liked him going to a hospital taking out people. I don't know. I don't know. Unless at some point they ended up back at camp for some reason. But, I was reading the article that you sent and I love the story and the scenario that was played out because we also got closure on Paul in this scenario.
We do see that Jason, I guess, is willing to leave the camp to get the girl. Is this one of his like once a year outings that he will leave to get the final girl that got away? But a little more, Rob, another plot was to have PTSD, and she was going to be flashing back and forth to Jason attacking her, and everyone was making fun of her, and then she was going to have a roommate. This is what the actress says. It's in, "Hey, Ginny, can I borrow your car? The red Volkswagen?" And I said, sure, because Ginny didn't go out at night anymore. And then my roommate took the car out. In the meantime, I'm doing laundry because it's Friday, of course. Everyone does their laundry on Friday. I go downstairs to do the laundry. I open the dryer, and Paul's head is in the dryer.
Crazy.
The love interest from part 2. So yes, this would have cleared up.
So crazy.
It would have cleared it up.
And then it said something about like the roommate dying because Jason sort of just killed whoever was in the car because that's her car. I think I read that, and I was like, well.
And then Ted. I forgot this.
That's
Rob.
right.
Ted
comes back. I love Ted. Ted was so cool.
Ted is the character that survives, I guess, basically because he's at the bar and he's the goofy character.
Yeah.
But Ted and I start a wild goose chase because we know Jason's out there, and we start hunting him down. I think that's cool in a one way, and now the plot of Halloween Kills Did they say this is what's gonna happen, or Halloween ends? They're gonna like seek out Michael Myers?
Yeah, they're gonna end up at the hospital for a little bit and then probably bring the fight to him or something like that. If I was Ted, I would not involve myself in that damn drama. I had nothing to do with it, but as a friend,
sorry.
But no, I like Ted too. So yeah, that would have been an interesting story. But again, just taking Jason out of the equation of the camp is just, I don't know if I like that. But the idea of bringing Jenny back, I get it. Very cool.
Or Rob, to your point, starts there and then Ginny and Ted go to Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
And then if that's how it would have ended, I might have been okay with that.
Yeah.
But we'll never know. Too bad. That's one of those things when the actress is now kicking herself.
Mm-hmm.
So Rob, part 2 of this franchise. Oh gosh, it's gonna change from here.
Yes, it is. So you have fun with part 3 because that is my that is one of my least favorite sequels. I actually reviewed this on Movie Geek and Proud, but it was on Patreon, so not many people really know my opinion of this. But it'll be really interesting to hear what you guys think of it next week because I didn't really like the character in this movie, and it also goes into a point because you guys are going to discuss how this girl got away. He never went after her.
Never did. No.
Why was Alice seeked after, but no? Well, I mean, she killed the mom, but like they didn't go after Jenny. But
Jenny got away.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to hear what you guys think of part 3.
I know you're going to be back for Tommy Jarvis number adult.
Definitely. Yeah, come back to Movie Geek and Proud next Wednesday. I have an all new episode. Yes, I am keeping it family and friendly, but for next week, I am doing a summer camp horror film called Sleepaway Camp. I will be reviewing the film with another podcaster from the Real Feels podcast, and that posts next Wednesday. So tune in for that on Movie Geek and Proud.
And then come back Friday for another murder at Camp Crystal Lake with Radical Retro Rewind. You could always find Rob at Movie Geek and Proud, but as well, you could find him weekly.
Brunch with the Hollowells, the Charm podcast. I'm on Instagram and Twitter, BWTH Podcast, and Instagram is Brunch with the Hollowells, all one word.
Thank you guys. We will be back next week with all new episodes on both of our respective podcasts. Thank you as always for listening and enjoy your summer.